We have lots to discuss here in today's video, including some NHL trade rumors around a variety of teams, including the Toronto Maple Leafs and the Ottawa Senators, as well as the Anaheim Ducks and the Winnipeg Jets. Plus, we have a big update on the potential future for Artemi Panarin. Could it be outside of the NHL? An update from a former NHLer and somebody who knows Panarin well on his potential future plans. Plus, we have news from the NHL waiver wire, some big injury updates, including one with Anthony Stolarz of the Leafs. Apparently, the injury is much worse than originally expected. Could be out longer. Plus, could youngster Matthew Schaefer make his way on the Canadian Olympic team, following in the footsteps of former first overall picks like Celebrini and Bedard? All three trending like being potential options for Team Canada. We'll discuss all that and more coming up next. So welcome back to another video here at Top Shelf Hockey. As I mentioned, we have lots to discuss in today's video. I did put out a video earlier tonight regarding a few quick news items here, but we'll just quickly recap in case you missed that. Waivers news here today. The St. Louis Blues have Alex Texier on waivers. $2.1 million with an expiring contract this year. Was a 30-point player 2 years ago, but this year he's got 1 assist in 8 games. Kind of fallen in favor with St. Louis. Jim Montgomery had to say like he's a great person. They really like him. They've been impressed with him in the past, but he's just not quite fitting them right now. So they want to see if there's another opportunity for him. He's not getting a lot of opportunity, and trying just to do right by him in a sense. Now, there is word from Elliotte Friedman that Montreal might be a team to watch here, but at the same time, it's also possible that if nobody picks him up, that the Blues and Texier are going to discuss the same sort of scenario we saw play out with the Leafs and David Kampf, where they might mutually agree to terminate the contract, making him a free agent and allowing him to sign in as a UFA somewhere else for a little bit less money and get more opportunity that way. It costs him some money, but at least it's an option. So we will see how things play out. We'll find out tomorrow afternoon if he's been picked up. Also on waivers today is 30-year-old Mason Gertson of the Buffalo Sabres, 6'4", 230-pound player in year 1 of 2 on his contract, making $775,000. Has appeared in 5 games for the Sabres this year, putting up 0 points and 12 penalty minutes. So again, another option if somebody wants a big physical player. You're not going to get much offense out of Gertson, but obviously a little bit of a role player, but not somebody getting a lot of opportunity in Buffalo. Now, as I mentioned, a bunch of injury updates here, some for the better, some for the worse, but the Leafs announced today through Craig Berube that the injury to Anthony Stolarz is worse than feared. Now, we didn't really give a timeline, so he's not sure yet what they're dealing with as far as time goes. But originally, I think it was looked upon as being a fairly minor thing, and certainly looks like it's going to be longer term. So how long, we don't know. But he has not started skating yet since he's been out, and they're hoping he'll start skating soon. But definitely a concern there. I mean, Joseph Woll's a good goalie. The Leafs unfortunately lost tonight in overtime to the Blue Jackets out on Fantilli with a pair, including the OT winner. He seems to be a bit of a Leaf killer. I swear every time the Jackets play the Leafs, Fantilli's putting up goals, and daggers against them too. At least it seems that way. But, obviously Woll's good, but, you're concerned about him having too heavy of a workload with Stolarz being out. A guy like Hildeby's going to have to get some action for sure, but we'll see. Scott Laughton was back tonight as well for the Leafs, so that was a good welcome addition. And Nick Waugh was officially added to IR. He's missed a little bit of time here, just a few days now, but he's retroactive to November 15th, so he'll be eligible to return in the not too distant future if he's up to it. The Blues got Jake Neighbors back tonight. He was activated for tonight's game against the Philadelphia Flyers. The Flyers ended up winning that game in OT. The Ottawa Senators had recalled Stephen Halliday and Lassie Thompson for the road trip against the Anaheim Ducks, and then, of course, they'll make their way through California and some other parts of western U.S. before making their way back home with a stop in Montreal on the way in quite a bit. That'll be early December before they make it to Montreal. But Stephen Halliday will be set to make his NHL debut tonight for the Senators. It's believed that between Lars Eller and Ridley Gregg, they both are kind of dinged up, dealing with minor injuries, and at least one of them, most likely Gregg, going to be out of the lineup tonight by the sounds of things, and Halliday will make his NHL debut. Nick Paul got to make his season debut for the Lightning tonight. Of course, he's been out for quite a bit of time here. Victor Hedman's also still going to be out for a couple of weeks. Paul made his return as the Lightning doing battle with the Edmonton Oilers. That game's still going here as I record this video. The Minnesota Wild placed Vladimir Tarasenko on injured reserve today, retroactive to November 14th due to a lower body injury. The Kings recalled goalie Phoenix Copley tonight, basically just to allow, they're on the road in San Jose, then they got to head back home for a back-to-back tomorrow night. That allows the main number one guy, Darcy Kemper, to stay home and relax and rest and get ready for tomorrow's game rather than have to travel with the team to San Jose. So Anton Forsberg will get the start against the Sharks tonight, and Copley will be there to back up. Like I said, just makes it a little easier on Kemper. Smart move, really, to allow your starter for tomorrow to stay home and not have to do the travel thing. It's something a lot of other teams probably should consider as well. Jude Doughty, of course, officially added to IR after blocking a shot in the foot, I believe it was, against the Senators just not long ago. He's expected to be out for 2 to 3 weeks. So some wondering if that'll impact his ability to make the Olympic team or not. He's certainly one of 6 to 8 defensemen that are seriously in the mix, and somebody who's played for Canada a lot in the past. So definitely will be given precedence over some for sure. Now, could be speaking of Canada in the Olympics, 3 consecutive first overall picks being their lineup for the 2026 Italy Olympics. I mean, Matthew Schaefer is the latest to get the attention, you'll say, of Team Canada. We got confirmation today from Elliot Friedman and some other reporters as well that Schaefer is 100% in the mix. And we know that because obviously this time of year going to the 2026 Olympic Games, that players have to participate in the drug testing program to be eligible to go. And he has been notified that he's been added to that list of players and is a part of that protocol. So nice to see. I mean, he's having a phenomenal rookie season. Looks like he's going to be a real special player. Even if he goes as an extra, to be completely honest, and doesn't either play at all or very little, it's still going to be an incredible experience for him, as he clearly looks like he can be a huge part of a national team's future. So I hope he gets to go just for that sake. I mean, there's a lot of great defensemen to pick from. Canada is blessed to be deep in that sense, but I just would like to see the kid get the experience. Now, Celebrini and Bedard, it was believed earlier in the year, the start of the year especially, that there might only be room for one of them on the team. They may not want both these young, inexperienced guys at this level, but they are both doing so phenomenally well that it's hard for Team Canada brass to ignore their strong play. They're both top 5 scoring in the NHL. They've both taken major leaps in their gameplay this year. All the top 5 scorers in the NHL right now are Canadian. Makes them, they're a little bit blessed in that sense to have all these guys to pick from. McKinnon, McDavid right up there, along with Celebrini, Bedard, and veteran Mark Scheifele, who's trying to get on this team as well after being left off the Four Nation group. So we could see 3 first-round picks here in recent years all suiting up for Canada at this Olympics, and that would be quite something, setting them up for the next generation of strong talent to keep that program strong and in good hands moving forward. Now, as I mentioned, a bunch of other notes here, some trade talk around the NHL. We're going to start with a couple of interesting ones out of Winnipeg and Anaheim. Frank Saravalli is reporting tonight that the Winnipeg Jets have given permission to the agent for 2022 first-round pick Brad Lambert to find a trade partner to help facilitate a trade for the 21-year-old. He's appeared in 4 games this year for the Jets, scoring 1 goal. He has 2 years of AHL experience, basically playing close to full seasons down there, putting up 35 points one year, 55 points another year. So he's obviously been pretty good. Now, there was a point in time that that he was considered to be like tops of his draft class, and he was going to either be first overall or top couple picks. He did slip. Obviously, he's for the most part, I believe he's considered from Finland, but his family is basically half Finnish, half Canadian. Of course, he's related to Lane Lambert, of course, the head coach of the Seattle Kraken. So, at this point, I don't know what's going to happen of that. I mean, I've seen a lot of people on social media saying, geez, another former first-round pick wants a trade. I would like to see my team pick him up, give him a chance. And you know what? There's lots of teams, especially ones rebuilding, that could benefit from this guy. I'm surprised that this is how we're developing in Winnipeg. They have not really had a lot of luck and a lot of great development there. I mean, Perfetti's one of the few exceptions here, but in the last number of years, look at a lot of these first-rounders that haven't panned out. Now, Ville Heinola is another name that's been kind of in and out of the rumor mill for wanting a fresh start here in recent years too. So we'll see what happens with Brad Lambert, but it is quite possible we see a trade if his agent can find a deal to help the Jets facilitate something. Another thing too is, the Jets are likely going to want to add this year as they get closer to the playoffs. He could be a trade chip for them on that front if things don't materialize quickly. Now, same thing kind of going on in Anaheim with a former high pick defenseman Pavel Mityukov. Elliot Friedman's reporting today that after a few consecutive healthy scratches here, that Mityukov has made it known that if he's not going to be given an opportunity to get in the lineup and play, that he would like to be moved and get an opportunity elsewhere. So clearly, in Anaheim, they've got some defensemen playing ahead of them. They've had guys like Lacombe and Zellweger getting more opportunity. I mean, Mityukov is kind of an offensively gifted guy. He's a guy, if he hits his full potential, he'll play top four and be like more of an offensive guy. So we'll see where things go. I kind of half wondered, hearing these two stories today, could they help each other out? Could Mityukov and Lambert be swapped for each other? I'm not sure there's really room on the Winnipeg blue line now. Unless, depending on injuries, I guess perhaps. But there's definitely teams out there that could benefit from both of these young players. The Anaheim Ducks have making big strides this year, and they've kind of made some changes and a new coach. And, obviously Mityukov once looked to be part of their plans, and some guys just kind of passed him here into the depth chart. It's not like they don't think he can play or don't like him anymore. It's just, other guys have kind of solidified their roles. And, if you look at like what a third pair defenseman is kind of needed to be by a lot of teams, he doesn't really fit that mold and description. So it's either, kind of one of those guys that kind of gets lumped into either you're playing top four or you're not playing. A lot of teams want their third pair to be a little bigger, heavier, more beef back there, so to speak, instead of having guys that are more offensive. Because really, if your top two pairs have a strong offense, at least one strong offensive D on each pair, whoever's like a guy like him, they're not going to see the power play. They're just not going to get a lot of offensive zone starts. They need him to kill penalties. They need a different role, right? And it's just not something they can fit. So we'll see what happens with each of these young players, but they're both looking for an opportunity. Now, could Artemi Panarin end up out of the NHL after this year by his own doing? It certainly seems like a possibility based on the new story that came out today from RG.org, conducted an interview with former Ranger and longtime NHL player Alexei Kovalev, who does know Panarin, of course, and I believe, from what I understand, they actually live close by to each other. So they, he would know a lot of the same people, a lot of mutual interest, and so what Kovalev is saying that he's hearing, he doesn't know if the rumors are true, but he's heard some speculation that Panarin very well might head to Russia after this year. Now, I honestly wonder if that might be some stuff between his agent and Panarin kind of getting that word out there to try to increase his value. Because we know the Rangers went to Panarin's camp before the season started in the summertime, and they wanted him to take an Anze Kopitar type of deal, like just a couple-year extension, a bit of a discount, so they could keep him in the mix, but yet make it work with the cap so they could continue to make the team better and add around him. And he wasn't interested in that. He's not looking to give anybody a discount. He wants his money. And so, Panarin right now at this point would be one of the top names in free agency next year if he makes it there. And right now it doesn't sound promising for him to extend with the Rangers unless he's willing to take a team discounted deal. At least that's all the intel and reporting that's out there in that situation right now. So unless something changes with his camp, it seems like the odds of him going back next year are slim. Now, I would suspect that there's a lot of teams out there that would be willing to pay fairly good money for Panarin's services. I'm not sure how many years or how long teams want to commit to him at this stage of his career, but there's going to be opportunities and lucrative ones at that, at least you would think, especially with a thin free agent market next year. But we'll see if there's anything to this story, of course, as time goes on. It could be, like I said, a ploy for him to kind of up his value and kind of if teams think, geez, we better make a move here if we want to get him because he's going to go back to Russia. To me, that's my gut instinct to reaction to that story. But, it just seems like a lot of guys like him, I could see him maybe wanting to play in Russia a little bit before he's done. Like we've heard Ovechkin say the same thing. But I just think he's got more to accomplish in the NHL yet before that happens. So we will see. Of course, we know if the Rangers are, dwindling and not really in a great playoff spot, that it was closer to the deadline. It's quite possible they talked to Panarin about a trade as well. But again, he's got trade protection. He doesn't have to play ball. He could let things expire and basically pull a Mitch Marner if he wants to. So we'll see how that plays out. When it comes to the Leafs, we've heard a lot about the Leafs here lately. Chris Johnson on his podcast today talking about some Leafs chatter. They definitely would like to add a top 6 forward. We've heard Brad Treliving speak to the media here the other day and how that they don't think they can trade their way out of this slow start to the season, that essentially he takes the blame and responsibility because he constructed the roster. He's the head of hockey ops. We've heard Elliot Friedman's reporting that the Leafs are considering a variety of moves, but they don't want to trade future assets. It's going to have to be a hockey trade, roster player for roster player, to make a deal. CJ is reporting that a couple of their key defensemen are being talked about a lot, according to other NHL executives. So the names of Brandon Carlo and Morgan Rielly both appear to be out there and in the mix. Now, Rielly has some trade protection, might be a more difficult move to make, given the fact that, with his young family and everything, he might not be too inclined to help the Leafs out with a trade during the season. At least the belief is if he were ever to consider that it would probably have to be in the summertime. But Brandon Carlo, on the other hand, doesn't have some of that stuff, so it's easier to move him. It does feel like they have buyer's remorse when that deal with the Bruins. And, they feel like Carlo would have good value to bring back something else. But the Leafs definitely want to add a combination of things if they can. Like they definitely would want to change their mix on the blue line a bit. They need a puck mover. And they also could use some help in the top 6 in the forward group, which is going to be tough to do in one move. It's probably going to take multiple moves. And even then, it's going to be tough to do. Like we said before, like when you have a lot of underperforming role players, secondary support players outside of your core, how are you going to move one of them to get a big name back? Because nobody's going to want to give you that deal, right? So it's tough to do. A guy like Carlo or Rielly would have more value than most, but it's going to be tough to figure it out for sure. Now, the Ottawa Senators also got mentioned in Elliot Friedman's blog, basically saying that he feels like teams like the Sens and the Carolina Hurricanes are, I think, lurking is what he used, basically trying to pull off a significant move. And Bruce Garriock of TSN and the Ottawa Sun followed that up with an article today and kind of indicated the same sort of thing, that he's hearing that Steve Staios, the GM of the Sens, might be looking to strike here with another big move. And it could be something similar to what we saw with the Dylan Cousins acquisition from Buffalo for Josh Norris. Might not be something not quite that big, but something to bolster this lineup. They feel like they're missing a little bit of depth on the blue line, and they feel like they're missing, ideally, another scoring forward to play in the top 9 or top 6. And according to Garriock, one name he feels like would make a lot of sense that they could be interested in is Flames forward Blake Coleman. Now, Coleman's gotten a lot of interest here from a variety of teams. He's got quite a record of being quite a playoff performer, especially from his time with the Lightning. A guy who can kill penalties. He's a great skater. Good offensive instincts. Like he's got a lot of different skill set that could complement a lot of teams. And we had heard that the Flames might not be overly inclined to move some of their bigger names, whether it be Nazem Kadri or Jonathan Huberdeau or whatnot. Or, of course, we know Rasmus Anderson's likely getting dealt at some point this year, but that Coleman was a name that they might be more inclined to be interested in because, not that these other guys are, that much more important, but his role's a little smaller. He's not a top-line player, but he could be a great complementary piece. So, might be more easily to pull off. Plus, the price isn't going to be as crazy. His contract's a little bit more reasonable. Could be a good compliment for them. Again, there's lots of other players that kind of fit that mold around the league that could be available, especially guys we know St. Louis and Nashville are some of the main teams to watch here, but we'll see how things play out. But according to multiple sources here, Staios and the Sens looking to strike and pull off another move to take a jump in their development and ability to get closer to being a contender. I don't know if they're a cup contender right now. They're definitely a playoff contender again, but they want to make that stronger, better, and take a step forward here. So we'll see how things play out. Let me know your thoughts on all of today's news and rumors in the comments. We'll discuss further. If you're new to the channel, make sure you subscribe and stick around. We'll keep you up to date with all the news, rumors, and analysis of all 32 NHL teams. Thanks for watching, and I will catch you next time.